Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today we're diving into Outliers, the story of success. And joining us is the author himself, Malcolm Gladwell. Malcolm, great to have you here.
Thanks, James. Happy to be here.
Let's start with the big idea. Many people think success comes mainly from talent or intelligence, but your book challenges that. What's the real message?
The central idea is simple. Success is not just about individual brilliance. It's shaped by opportunity, timing, culture, and environment, often in ways we don't notice.
So success is more situational?
Exactly. We love stories of self-made geniuses, but when you look closely, successful people usually had unusual advantages, the right moment, the right support, or the right conditions. One of the most famous ideas from your book is the 10,000-hour rule. Explain that for us. To achieve world-class mastery in a complex skill, people tend to practice for around 10,000 hours. That's roughly 10 years of intense, focused work. So talent alone isn't enough. Talent helps, but practice is essential. And more importantly, the opportunity to practice that much is rare. Not everyone gets that chance. Can you give an example? Sure. The Beatles played live music for thousands of hours in Hamburg before becoming famous. Bill Gates had rare early access to computers in the 1960s, something extremely unusual at that time. Those opportunities allowed massive practice. So the real advantage was access, not just ability. Exactly. Many talented people never reach excellence because they never get the environment needed to develop their skills fully. Another fascinating idea in the book is the relative age effect. That really surprised me. Yes, small differences in age can create huge long-term advantages. In youth sports, for example, children born earlier in the year are slightly older, bigger, and more mature than their peers. And that small difference changes everything? It can. Coaches select the stronger kids for advanced training. They get better coaching, more confidence, more practice, and over time, they pull far ahead. So early advantage compounds over time. Exactly. Success often begins with small, almost invisible advantages that grow larger year after year. You also talk about culture, especially in areas like math performance and communication styles. Yes, cultural values shape how people approach effort, discipline, and problem solving. For example, some cultures strongly emphasize persistence and long, careful work, and that influences educational outcomes. So even the way we think about effort is learned? Very much so. What we see as natural ability is often deeply connected to cultural habits and expectations. This has been eye-opening. Success isn't just about who you are, but where you are, when you are, and what opportunities you get. That's the big takeaway. And for our listeners, if you want to truly understand how success works and see many more powerful examples, you should definitely read the full book. It offers far more depth and insight than we can cover here. Thanks for listening to Part 1, and we'll see you in Part 2. Welcome back to Part 2 of our discussion. In Part 1, we explored opportunity, practice, and timing, but now I want to go deeper into something even more powerful and less visible: cultural legacy. Malcolm, what exactly do you mean by that? Cultural legacy is the idea that the beliefs, habits, and behavioral patterns of past generations continue shaping how people think and act today, even when they don't consciously realize it. So we inherit more than just traditions. We inherit ways of thinking. Exactly. Culture leaves psychological fingerprints. It shapes how we respond to authority, how we solve problems, how persistent we are, and even how we communicate under pressure. One of the most striking examples in your work involves aviation disasters. That section really makes readers stop and think. Yes, because it shows how culture affects behavior in extreme, high-stakes situations. Investigations into multiple airline accidents revealed something surprising. Technical failure was not always the main cause. Often, the real issue was communication. Communication between pilots? Yes, in some cultures, there's a strong tradition of deference to authority. Subordinates are expected to speak carefully, indirectly, and respectfully, especially when addressing someone of higher rank. That sounds socially polite, but dangerous in emergencies.
Exactly. Imagine a co-pilot noticing a critical problem but speaking vaguely instead of directly challenging the captain. Seconds matter. Indirect communication can delay action, and delay can be fatal. So cultural politeness can unintentionally reduce safety. In certain contexts, yes. One of the most well-known cases involved Korean Air. Historically, cockpit communication reflected strong hierarchical norms. Once the airline recognized this pattern, they redesigned training programs, encouraging direct, assertive communication regardless of rank. And what happened? Safety performance improved dramatically. The aircraft didn't change, the technology didn't change, communication culture changed, and that changed outcomes. That's powerful. It means success and failure can depend on invisible social habits we rarely question. Exactly. Culture operates quietly, but its effects are enormous. Another fascinating section connects agriculture to modern attitudes toward effort. At first, that sounds unrelated, but it makes sense when you explain it. Yes, historically, different types of farming required different kinds of labor. Rice farming, for example, demands intense manual work, careful timing, and continuous attention. There is no simple plant and wait cycle. It requires sustained effort over long periods. So communities built around rice farming developed a mindset of persistence. Exactly. When survival depends on steady, disciplined labor, cultural values evolve around patience, endurance, and incremental progress. Over generations, that becomes a shared belief. Effort leads to results. And that mindset carries into education very strongly. In cultures shaped by this history, people are often more comfortable with long study sessions, repetition, and gradual improvement. What outsiders might call natural intelligence is often a learned cultural relationship with effort. So persistence itself can be cultural inheritance. Yes, we don't just inherit genes, we inherit attitudes toward work. After everything we've discussed, the idea of the completely self-made success story feels incomplete. That's one of the key messages. We celebrate individuals, but we overlook the systems that shaped them: families, institutions, historical timing, cultural values, and opportunities. So success is less like a solo performance and more like a network effect. Exactly. When we only focus on personal traits, talent, intelligence, ambition, we miss the structural forces that make achievement possible. That has big implications. It changes how we think about education, equality, and opportunity. Yes, if success depends partly on environment, then improving environments can unlock potential in many more people. Talent is widespread, opportunity is not. So if listeners take one deep lesson from this conversation, what should it be? Look beyond the individual. Whenever you see extraordinary success, ask, what hidden advantages existed? What cultural patterns shaped behavior? What opportunities allowed skill to grow? In other words, success is never just personal, it's contextual. Precisely. This conversation really reshapes how we think about achievement, from something mysterious and individual to something structured and understandable. Malcolm, thank you for walking us through these deeper layers: culture, communication, and the hidden architecture of success. My pleasure, James. And to everyone listening, if you want to fully understand these ideas, explore the research, and see many more compelling real-world examples, you should absolutely read the complete book from beginning to end. That's where the full depth of these insights truly comes alive. Thanks for listening. See you next time, and goodbye.